So welcome to ALN Thursday at 3. My name is Mike Bordenaro. I'm the Executive Director of the Asset Leadership Network, and we're very happy today to have Cyril Verley talking with us. Cyril's president of CDV Systems and 26 Degrees Software. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself and about that. And before we get started, we'd like to thank our patron members, Jacobs, Mantech, Onuma, ABS Quality Evaluations, and CGI, and all of our members, of which collect us in 26 Degree Software are members. So we're thankful for that. And we are really thankful that our members coming together presenting at the National Institute of Building Sciences Digital Twins Conference next week near Washington in the National Harbor of Maryland. They're exhibiting together, and they've asked the Asset Leadership Network to come and be there with them. And we really appreciate this. And this demonstrates the network working. It is so rewarding to see members coming together and doing things. But I shouldn't be talking about that. Let's let Cyril talk about that. Cyril, how are you doing?
I'm good, Mike. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's good to see you again, except I can't see you yet because,
Oops, my camera is going on right now. Let's start video. Great.
very good to see you, Cyril. And you've been on before, but why don't you give us a little bit about, well, you were an architect and you were a tech person and you got into Revit before Revit was even called Revit, or right at the very beginning. And then you created your software that harvests the information about BIM in the building information model to make it useful. And what I love about what you do is you are the best example of breaking down the barrier between the silos. We have so many people say, you need to do more about personal property. And there is the National Property Managers Association. They do great work on that. But yes, we do. However, what I've been trying to say is that this approach to BIM, using building information models and all the information in those models, when you harvest it properly, you can use it through the entire life cycle. So you're really breaking down the silos in asset management and treating the building and the information about the assets in a similar manner, keeping them in their silos, but you got the warranty information. And I really love it. So thank you for coming on and talking to us. But you've got something else that you do. You do a real special trick. Will you tell us about 20 Degrees software before we get into your other talk?
Of course. So we were hired in 2011 or 2013 as BIM managers for a 3.5 million square foot hospital called CHUM, this beautiful building in Montreal. And when we first came on the model project, there were 65 Revit models, and we squashed that down to 41 Revit models. And when we realized very quickly was that with a project that big, we needed a tool or a mechanism to manage typical views across the project. Because in Revit, if you place a detail in one model, you can't reference it in another. And that's a huge problem with multi-model projects. So we created a new company called 26 Degrees Software. It's basically the software side of CDV Systems. And we developed a product called ViewAQC, which allows users to place a detail in model A and reference it in model B, C, D, and E. And since then, we've got projects all around the world. We've got literally hundreds of projects as I speak, working in the Autodesk clouds, working on all versions of Revit up to 2025. Parsons, Jacobs, Canada Design, SOM, KPF, huge companies using it. So we're quite excited about that product.
So let me see if I've got it right. it allow it does something that Revit doesn't do.
Correct.
And let's say I've got one bathroom sink.
A detail.
I'm going to be using that asset in all the different buildings on the campus
Correct.
instead of having to put the information about that into each of the different models that are necessary throughout the campus. There's a
Right.
way to click, or what's the process?
So normally what would happen is that a client would create a detail. Let's say it's the detail of the sink or the detail of a parapet. And they got 6 buildings. This is the case with Shum. And all the parapets on all 6 buildings were the same. It generally the same. So one detail would be created. In a typical workflow, that user would have to create a duplicate of that detail and drop it in building number 2. And then they would make another duplicate of that detail and drop it in building number 3 and a duplicate in building number 4. And they'd have to manage all these duplicate views and all the data in those, so that when they changed it in one place, they'd have to go back and change all the duplicates as well. Horribly inefficient, just wrought with all kinds of possibilities of miscoordination. So we said, let's draw the detail once and create what's called a reference. I want to reference that view in all the other buildings. And that was a huge game changer. Suddenly, you keep in mind, with this project on Shum, there were 6,000 sheets and hundreds of design packages that went out constantly over the 5 years that we were involved in the project. And I don't know how else we could have done it without having something to manage those standard details across the multi-model project. I mean, it's very specific to Revit. It's not really anything to do with assets, but as an application, that's when we jumped into software development.
Well, it does have to do with assets
Well,
because
of
of
course,
the handing the information off to the others, and that's
that's
what
true.
Collectus does very well.
Correct.
And so, since not everyone's going to be able to attend the Digital Twin Conference next week, we usually don't do slides. Usually these are discussions, but you've agreed to very quickly go through your presentation, and I think that will lead to some very good discussion. So if you can share your
Awesome.
screen and
I can.
let it rip.
Let it rip. All right, let's see. Share my
And
screen.
while Cyril is firing that up, I'll remind everyone to go ahead and make comments or enter questions in the chat or in the question format.
Right. Just to let you know, we're looking at the CDV Systems website here. The project I'm talking about, our list of clients, it's an amazing list. It's called Canon Design with the Clients. And this was the Shum project. And it was just this beautiful, magical 3.5 million square foot, 14,000 a room project, 6 buildings, 41 architectural models, and to manage the standard details across this multi-model project were pretty amazing. So, and we won a BIM award. CDV and Canon Design won a BIM award for this. So we're quite excited about that.
Was
So
that from the American Institute of Architects?
it was from, let's see, no, it was a different award. Whoops.
Okay.
Different award. A different award. There's a press release for it, right?
That's all right. Sorry, I didn't mean to. It's not
Okay.
a pop
All
quiz.
good.
We can go on to the presentation.
All good. So I'm gonna blast through this presentation very quickly. Hopefully it'll generate some questions, but so you might be a little bit confusing, but I'm gonna do the best I can. I'll also be using a lot of terms, a lot of terms in Revit, BIM terms. So if there's a question about anything, we can have a discussion on the other side. So again, our client list, we've been building content. We've literally modeled, tens of millions of square feet of projects, tens of thousands of components. And we developed a workflow in Revit that was useful for our clients. The problem is that when our clients would send models to the owners would shelve them. And it wasn't ours models in particular, they would just shelve the models. Okay, let me take one step forward here. I'm going to ask a broader question initially, because from my perspective, as an architect and as an expert in BIM, I see owners that don't use these models, and that's nails across a blackboard. So I'm going to start with some very broad questions for new and existing buildings. What's the first step to managing any asset? And it has to be located. So you've got a campus, You've got a building, you've got floors in that building, you want to find a floor, you get rooms, you want to find a room, and you want to find data in that room. That's the ideal that any owner wants. Likewise, you've got assets, you find a particular asset, and you want to find data in that asset. In an ideal world, you want to use a handheld device to find that. And ideally, you want to use a map. So in the broadest view, the intention here is we want to make models useful to do this right here. So, there's a mindset also that I want to make clear. Sometimes owners have this idea that they want to use BIM to manage their facility. That's an absolute mess. We've tried that multiple times, never wants to happen. Architects, engineers, and contractors create the Revit models. They're the experts of making the models. That's what they do best. The owners ideally should harvest that data. That's the key. In an ideal world, you want to be able to harvest the data and use it for all different types of departments within an institution, whether it's asset management, facility management, space management, indoor GIS, capital planning, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, ideally, all these departments should benefit. And that's always been our perspective, is try to encourage a spread and distribution of this data across these departments, because they can all benefit. So in a typical workflow, an owner hires an architect, the architects build these models, the contractor builds the building, and they build models too. And when the building is delivered, the models are then shelved typically. They don't use them because there's an inconsistent data structure. So the owner ends up having to spend 6 to 12 to 18 months recreating the data, somehow trying to figure out how are they going to manage and maintain the assets in the building. And this workflow we found is insufficient. And the reason is the architects and engineers and contractors aren't contractually required to provide data-rich BIMs. So instead, we've created a workflow we call Collectus, which allows a facility owner to benefit and empowers a facility owner to harvest the data into a digital twin, literally within hours of handover. So in this workflow, and we call this a business process model, with it as an example of benefiting from BIM. This is an example of it. We've
And we
created
call it a strategic asset management plan.
Absolutely. From an owner's perspective, it's the owner is leading the show here. That's the key, is that it's coming from the owner. So the owner provides to the teams, the AC teams, a BIM execution plan, but it includes data. And we're going to look at that in a minute. The architects start building their models. They're using this Collectus workflow. The architects or engineers are doing it. The contractors, and some contractors, as they build the building, they're building their models too, using the same Collectus structure. The owner has a mechanism of checking the models. We'll look at that in a minute, because that's one of the other problems that owners never have. And when the models are delivered and at handover, the building's done, the models are delivered, those models are data rich and then can be harvested literally within hours. And we've proven this multiple times into a digital twin like a NUMA system, where now using your handheld device, you can find the warranty information, you can locate the valve, you can locate the room and the information about the floor of that room, whatever it is, doesn't matter. The data is at hand within this digital twin. So here's an example of just that. Here's a data-rich Revit model. You can see all the parameters, the data structure that's there. You can see it here on, the warranty information, installation date. The information is already there. They just have to fill it in. And that gets harvested into a NUMA system. And from there, you get this digital twin, okay? Now, there are 3 steps to do this. The first is to define the requirements within a BIM execution plan. And with the case of Collectus, it includes data. And that includes industry standards like CSI and COBie, the Master Format, Uniform, and Anomaly class, inside the BIMX plan. So if a user was to open up Collectus, and by the way, this Collectus structure, the owner gets the subscription, and the entire data structure of Collectus is offered to any one of their architects, engineers, and contractors and subcontractors within Revit without cost. They can get access to all of the entire library, and you'll see that in a minute. The architect has the BIM execution plan. It's within Revit literally. And within this BIMX plan, we have required data requirements. We call it LODI, level of data information. There's LODI 300 for the architects and engineers to fill in this case for the air handling unit. LODI 400 for manufacturing information, again, contractor and subcontractor fill in, and LODI 500 operations and maintenance data for the contractor and subcontractor to fill in. These values that you see here are nothing new to the AEC team members. We're just defining it as a requirement in BIM for the teams before we begin. Next, the next step is the owner has to provide this data structure to the AEC team members so they can actually build models that have an LODI 300, 400, and 500 for the contractors and subcontractors. So within Collectus, there's an entire library of 36,000 components coming from all the work that we've done in the last 22 years with all these AEC firms that you saw earlier, you know, SOM, HOK, NBBJ, AECOM, Denver International Airport, all this experience that we have. So here, this entire library, metric and imperial, would be used to build the models within Collectus. We're dropping in doors, we're dropping in plumbing equipment and piping equipment, we're dropping in within the model mechanical equipment and ducting equipment with the structure, the data structure that's required. So here, this is a tower, an 18-story tower that we did with Onuma Systems, where we took this tower, built it in Collectus, and with MEP, and brought it in. You're gonna get in a moment, you're gonna be able to try it yourself. Step 3, the owner needs a mechanism to validate the model. And that's been the problem all along, is that owners don't have BIM experts. So we've created within Collectus a structure that allows the owner to check the models without being BIM experts. So here, if I look at the Collectus model, all of the requirements that were in the BIMX plan for data are built as Revit schedules. It's like an Excel file inside of Revit. So the team members can load in all the required LODI, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing schedules. They can load in the LODI 400 and 500 schedules for all the different asset types. So that when an owner, when the builder has a model, you can see the schedules exist already. They just have to fill the data in. And if I zoom out with the schedules, you see LOD 300 is smaller, LODI 400 is a little bit bigger, and LODI 500 is huge, but it has all the data in it. So instead of exporting to COBie, which is a snapshot in time, here the data stays live in the models, and the models are data rich. And if someone deletes an air handling unit, it disappears from the model. If someone adds it, it's instantly updated, or someone changes it, it's instantly updated. The model becomes the single source of truth through this process. And with that model, and by the way, these schedules are designed for the owner to check. So again, we spent about an hour and a half with the owners showing them how to open a model, how do I open a schedule, because you can use this schedule to check to make sure, have all the values been filled in? If they're not filled in, send it back to your team and have them fill it in. And thus,
Oh, a
there's a
workflow
mechanism
that actually serves the owner.
Exactly. There's a way, without being Revit experts, to check the models to make sure the data is filled in. And if someone deletes the model, the owner can load it back in. That's part of the training. We can load it back in from Collectus, and instantly it fills in. And so the entire intention here is that when it's done, it's harvested into a digital twin. That's the key, is that we want to be able to harvest this data literally and within hours to bring it into a digital twin, like a Numa system. So the intention is we want to be able to find the campus, the building, the level, the room, and whatever asset information or room information or detailed information, we want that from our handheld device. So now if you want, you can use this QR code, take your phone, just scan that QR code if you feel like it, and you take a photograph, you can scan it, and when you do, it'll say BIM Storm. And what you'll do is you'll click, it'll say go, you'll click the go button right there. And there you can choose, and you'll see actually the campus. This is the campus of where we're speaking next week at NIBS. There's a floor plan of it. It shows it shows all these various buildings. Literally, you're looking at almost like a campus of your facility right there. If you click on select a building and you choose Collectus Apartments, there you'll see the Collectus Tower that you saw a minute ago, that 18-story tower. If you choose level 5 as an example, And then if you click on a room, okay, there I've clicked a room on level 5. And if you scroll down, you can actually create a work order and submit it. So literally, as a CMMS application, you're looking at a CMMS application for creating work orders. It's quite remarkable, and we're using a map, and literally to create this model was hours of effort versus weeks, months, or years, or none at all, at a handover. And for those
Well,
projects that have existing data, a NUMA system allows the consolidation of a variety of platforms, data platforms, to be brought into this single data. So we would always tell our clients, don't try to recreate Revit models from existing buildings. That's horribly inefficient. The better mindset is use what you have. If you've got CAD or PDF or JPEGs or PowerPoint, whatever they are, that can be brought into this digital twin also. It may not have all the information that a data-rich model would have, but it's a great start. So, okay, I'm going to stop talking now.
no, you're not. But you can
No,
stop sharing your screen.
okay, I'll stop sharing my
And we've
screen.
got a couple of questions here.
Okay,
I've been trying to keep up with all the initials, but not everybody is in the same industry. NIBS is the National Institute of Building Sciences.
yes,
I put up Kobe. Gary Merrill, thanks for sending the link to the Kobe website.
right,
And then LODI, I know level of detail. What's the I
right.
part?
Level of data information.
Level of data information.
So LOD is a term that's used in the industry for level of detail, level of development. It has to do with to what extent do you model your buildings? And we recommend as Revit folks, LOD 300. That's as far as you need to go. Or maybe the contractors need to go a little further, but owners don't need anything beyond LOD 300 or 350 at the very most. The data, on the other hand, LODI, that's a whole different story. And that's where we want to have, the owner wants that data. And if we can keep it inside the BIM model, because the data structure is already there, that's the beauty. I mean, Kobe is great, but it's a snapshot in time. And if you make one change, you got to resubmit the Kobe model. That's just pain and suffering. Here, the model stays data rich, and they're light, LOD 300. So
So you can
again,
use the Kobe format, but if you use the Kobe format in a web-based open source secure system, then you get the structure of Kobe, but you get the entering data into one place once or changing once instead of having to keep on going back to an Excel spreadsheet.
right. Well, the Kobe, think of Kobe, you're making a PDF, a snapshot in time. So if you do a Kobe model in March and you make changes in May, June, July, you've got to run that Kobe file again. And it's just, and you've got to update it again. And because oftentimes the Kobe file doesn't have all the information, they have to fill it in because the data structure doesn't exist in the Revit models. They have to re-enter the information. It's very time consuming. Our preference is if the data structure already exists and I drop an air handling unit, just fill the data in. You can drop it in. And
Okay.
there's structure within Collectus to build custom content, your own content also. You can incorporate your own content as well. So there's workflows for that.
Okay. We got a couple process questions and cost question. Let's do the process first and then
Okay.
we'll talk about the cost. So are there any open APIs for the BIM storm? And can they put this data into a data lake such as Entro CIM or JCI OpenBlue or ThingsWorks?
I'm not sure what part you mean. I know that with Kimon, once the data goes into the digital twin, Kimon's API with Onuma system is an open architecture. So right now, our data structure exists inside Collectus literally within the Revit models themselves and within our BIMX plan. So
Okay, and Kimon is watching, so thank you for throwing in. Kimon, maybe you can answer some of this about uh, the data from data lakes, such as these various data sources.
yeah, Kimon would be the person to answer that.
Yeah, Kimon, if you want, I can. So that's a yes. So the question is happy, and then the way I think it is that if the databases have open APIs, then the information can flow.
Exactly.
And the whole point, it's like the internet. Some data is going to be in some software or databases, and other information is going to be in other. That should not matter. I want what I need to see in front of me. And it's the secure open standards that allow that to happen. And I want to keep reminding everyone that the umbrella standard is a ISO standard for asset management. And if owners understand that, then a lot of things start falling into place and people can play in this way. All right. Is
Absolutely.
the BIM data model synonymous to a common data environment? Do you find that when you're dealing with BIM storms?
Yes, that's a common answer, I think.
And he says, yes. Yeah, common data environments. All right. So one of the things that I really like that you brought to me that was like a light bulb going off. Why didn't I even understand that? Was the business process model concept, and that is really analogous to a strategic asset management plan, or what's the mission of the organization. It really starts there.
Right. It has to start from the top. That's the key. It's not, yeah, it has to start from the top because this is um, the architects, engineers, and contractors, they once they become comfortable using the content, they're fine. But it takes some convincing at first. But really, it's the owner that has to drive it all because the owner wants rich models. That's the key. They want to use, they don't want to pay, they don't want to pay for this twice. They build these models, they want to use them.
Mhm.
So,
All right, then. One of the things I said earlier is that you are demonstrating this connecting of or breaking down the silos. You even have the slide for that. But the other thing that I really like about you is your team playing. You're a team player. And if you could talk a little bit about how the team is coming together for the National Institute of Building Sciences Digital Twins program tomorrow or next week, that would be great.
sure. Okay. So next week we have, we'll be doing a lecture on Wednesday, I think 9 o'clock or 9:30 in the morning. And well, actually, I'm going to take a big step back.
All
One
right.
thing that our perspective has always been, we want to create, we want to create open data. We want to make the data simple, accessible to use as these models are being delivered. And we've created a solution by creating a consistent data structure in the models. And when we first, we've exported our data to Maximo and to WebTMA, but there are certain applications that are closed systems. Comon's Comon or Numa's perspective has always been an open architecture. We don't, wherever the data comes in, we want to be able to bring it into a system that can talk with lots of other systems, basically a system of systems. And for me, that really resonated because, every owner is going to have subtleties, and this workflow provides or allows for a variety of applications to talk to each other and to communicate with each other. And in the case of Onuma system, as an example, as an open architecture, sometimes people use his CMMS application, others don't, but they're still benefiting from the maps generated within BIM Genie. So via these apps, it allows data to pass along. Now, with regards to the lecture next week, think of BIM as the underlying level. Think of Onuma system and other apps as the third level, and then the tier above that is called PADI. PADI is an application. It aligns a variety of applications with actual hardware and building automation systems. And so a variety of users can look at this data and blend information from a variety of sources into this basically this UI. And what's interesting is that all the information it remains in those separate silos, but the connections are what makes the difference. It's the connections that allow information to pass back and forth, as needed. So that again, it's Onuma on steroids. It's pretty wild.
So I'm going to break that down into the mic version. This is not the official version. This is my own personal approach. Is that you are able to harvest the asset information from the building and also the room information, sizes, dimensions, and stuff,
Correct.
and that gets shared with Onuma.
Right.
And Onuma allows the apps to be used on phones. You're not doing that. That's something that's, specific to him. So
Right.
they know where the HVAC system is, and they actually know where the thermostat is on the wall if they want to.
Correct.
Then the Patty system with this interoperability box that Patty is using can take the information from the HVAC system, the information from the automation system, the thermostat, and make that available to the building owners and operators to make sure things are running efficiently. And that just took it to the next level. And yeah,
Correct.
so
I mean,
that's what I meant by team players. So I really appreciate you having that willingness to, share that information so it's used multiple times.
right, exactly. I mean, I think, and that's the next continuation of that step would be the room is hot. Within that system, a work order could be sent for a technician to go visit the room, and in the meantime, a technician could be working in Patty to reduce the temperature of that room or check, they could impact or increase the temperature because it's getting cold and more people have come in. So all the kinds of analysis, it's quite brilliant. This true digital twin.
And the other thing is you're all not hogs. You know that other the need for this approach is huge, and that you couldn't handle all of the buildings that need this, and that you're promoting the process so that other people can use the process also. Of course, you're so far ahead of everyone that it's silly for them to not go to you, but to be willing to share this, and it's just really wonderful. All right, so I was gonna end, but we've got a couple things here. Would it make sense to use this on facilities that already are built, an existing campus that wants to build on a digital twin? Kimoni already answered for Jesse,
Absolutely.
and the answer is yes there. Um,
Can I show the slide? Can I show that
you
slide real
can
quick?
keep showing, yes. If people have to leave, totally understand. Let's say it's officially over, and this is all extra time now. So
I think this slide is the most compelling right here. I mean, this slide, to me, is the best way to describe um, a digital twin that consolidates a variety of platforms, whether it's a CAD file, along with an Excel file, along with a BIM model if the BIM model has limited information about the rooms or the assets, or even legacy work orders from other applications can be brought into this system. It's really quite remarkable. And the beauty is that you're sort of looking at a variety of consolidated data in this one platform, and that's the power of it. Obviously, there's a back end to the iPhone, that shows all the technical side and the admin side, but um, uh, again, for existing facilities, and I'll repeat what I said earlier. Clients of ours have tried to recreate all of their existing buildings in BIM. That to me is too
costly.
much, yeah, too much time, too much money, and not necessary. If you've got CAD files, if you've got PDF files, if you've got Excel files, start with that. Just have that as a beginning, because that could be consolidated into this, in this case, Onuma system.
So
As
speaking of cost, we forgot to answer Gary's question about cost comparison. So
oh,
maybe you can stop. Do
I
you
can
have
show
a
you
slide
another
on that?
slide.
Oh, all right.
Yes. Let's see. Let me show you different sets of slides here. Um, I'm going to show you a slide. This is a slide that shows you the costs if you're not using Collectus. So so if someone was to, for an institution that wants to um, create a digital twin without using BIM, it's 3 to 6 months, okay, no, I'm sorry, 12 to 18 months, and there's a cost of implication there. If someone wants to make a BIM execution plan from scratch as an owner, there's a cost implication there. If they want to create Revit templates for their clients, for their AEC team members to build models, there's a cost. If they want to have content, our content, it's 2 to 4 years of effort to create that content. Every year, Autodesk comes out with new versions of Revit. You have to maintain and update all this content. So there's a cost there. A typical BIM salary for a user is about that. That's actually low. But keep in mind that an architect's not going to know MEP, and an MEP is not going to know structural. So you might have multiple people if you wanted to do this. So from our perspective, we tell folks, should owners implement BIM? Goodness, no, there's no need for that. You could save a huge amount of money, again, doing this workflow of Collectus, and yet you're still able to validate the models and check the models. In terms of the cost, oh, I took the slide out, darn.
That's okay. You can just talk to the savings.
Sure, no, the savings, it depends on the size of the facility, and it depends on how much new construction
Since you don't have a slide to talk to, you can wait, Gary says it's a great slide.
Oh, the slide for the should I bring it back?
Oh, Gabrielle was saying that.
Oh, I can bring it back, sure.
No, the one that you've got on.
Oh, this one here. Okay, good. Yeah, I would say for existing content, wow, I would not go anywhere near trying to rebuild models from scratch. And we've built, I mean, we would love to build it. It's costly. Right out of the box, it's costly. So you're much better off.
All right. So what kind of costs are you talking about doing it your way? Because you have a subscription approach, right?
It's a subscription though. So Collectus is a subscription. I'll give you an example. If you're doing a million square feet of new construction, I would say between 12 and 18,000 a year for Collectus. And what that means is that all of your AEC team members have full access to the software, metric and imperial, anywhere in the world. Your architects, your engineers, your contractors, subcontractors, obviously they have access to the BIM execution plan and all the files that go along with it. There is some setup if the owner has existing content that they want to incorporate, there might be some setup time there. If there's depending on the number of consultants, like AEC consultants, there may be some services there to get them up and running. It's like 3 or 4 hours per consultant, but there's time there. But otherwise, the cost difference between instantly having an entire library, an entire infrastructure, is pretty dramatic with a BIM execution plan. So that's, it's about 1 million square feet of new construction per year, anything or less. Other clients with more construction, it's obviously, more expensive.
More.
But yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We've got a lot of good input. So if you stop sharing,
of course,
I will do the official closing and I'll be very grateful to you I am very grateful to you for presenting. There's just been an outflow of comments saying that this was really informative. So we need to connect you with some people, and we'll do that. So yeah, Cyril, all that you're doing, bringing this information to everyone, very grateful to you and to all of our patron members, Jacobs, Mantech, Onuma, who's playing well here, and ABS Quality Evaluations and CGI. And then you see Collectus and 26 Degree Software. Patty is here, and all of our organizational members. And just want to remind everyone that this is part of what's happening next week. And then that is building on something that we're going to be doing at the American Society of Heating and Refrigeration Air Conditioning Engineers in February. And people can jump in and share their information. If you're an owner, you might be able to get some free samples of how this works for you, and then you can show it to the people that you need to indicate you want to move on to this approach. And then if you're a software company or a service provider, join ALN and get involved with how this is growing. Very happy with this element of Asset Leadership Network. And I just want to say that yesterday we had a great presentation with Mark Knight, who is both an Institute of Asset Management Fellow and an ALN Senior Fellow. We presented to the Minnesota Institute of Asset Management on leadership in asset management. They have invited us back to do a quote unquote BIM storm on creating policy. So that'll be coming up in 2025. We've got other great things coming up in 2025, but I'll let you all go now. Thanks for staying overtime. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next week from Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.